The moment the CEO noticed his baby was no longer sitting where he had left the stroller, his heart stopped. The city park around him blurred into noise and color. But one image cut through the panic like a blade: his 1-year-old child, giggling softly, reaching out tiny fingers toward a poorly dressed woman sitting alone on a cracked bench under a dying tree. The woman looked thin, exhausted, almost invisible to the world. Yet his baby was smiling at her as if she were family. And then, in a way that shattered his carefully built reality, the woman looked up at him with eyes full of recognition and quietly revealed a truth that connected her to his past in a way he never imagined. She told him she used to be his wife's nurse. If you believe stories of kindness, second chances, and hidden truths still matter in this world, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep real, meaningful stories alive. The CEO, Daniel Verma, was a man known for control. He controlled markets, boardrooms, and outcomes. His company was worth billions, his name appeared in magazines, and his schedule was managed down to the minute. Yet ever since his wife died during childbirth a year ago, control had slipped through his fingers in ways no financial loss ever could. Grief had hollowed him out, leaving behind a man who functioned but no longer felt whole. His son, Arav, was the only reason he still woke up with purpose. Every breath Daniel took seemed tied to protecting that child from a world that had already taken too much from him. That afternoon in the park was supposed to be simple. A rare break between meetings, a breath of air away from glass buildings and silent offices. Daniel had brought Arav along, with a nanny standing a few steps away while he answered urgent emails. He looked away for seconds, maybe less. When he looked back, the stroller was slightly moved and Arav's attention was elsewhere. Panic surged before logic could catch up. Then he saw them, the baby and the woman. The woman's clothes were worn, her shoes cracked, her hair tied back carelessly. She looked like someone life had pushed aside without apology. Yet there was something in the way she held her hand out to Arav, careful and gentle, that stopped Daniel from shouting or rushing forward. It was not fear in her posture but familiarity, like she had held children before, like she knew exactly how fragile happiness could be. As Daniel approached, his mind flooded with defensive thoughts. He was powerful, wealthy, influential. He had spent his life learning how to read people, how to sense danger. Yet what unsettled him most was not the woman's appearance, but the calm certainty in her eyes when she looked at him. It was the look of someone who remembered him from another life. The words she shared hit him harder than any accusation ever could. She explained she had once worked as a private nurse, caring for his wife during the most vulnerable months of her pregnancy. She remembered the house, the silence, the late nights filled with worry. She remembered Daniel too, though back then he had barely noticed her. He had been too busy, too consumed by work, too certain that money could solve everything. Daniel felt something inside him crack. His wife's pregnancy had been complicated. He remembered the staff coming and going, faces blending together. He remembered trusting that everything was handled. And then he remembered the night everything went wrong, the hospital lights, the doctors' faces, and the unbearable stillness afterward. His wife was gone. The nurse had disappeared from his life just as suddenly, lost in the blur of grief and chaos. The woman explained that after his wife's death, her own life unraveled. She had lost her job soon after, blamed quietly for circumstances beyond her control. Hospitals stopped calling. Families chose others. Medical bills piled up when her own mother fell sick. One misfortune led to another until survival replaced dignity. The park became her refuge, a place where she could sit and remember the life she once had. Daniel listened, stunned by how close this broken woman had once been to his family, to the happiest and most painful chapter of his life. What shook him most was how Arav seemed drawn to her, as if sensing something familiar beyond words. The baby's laughter echoed softly, unaware of the emotional storm gathering around him. Daniel carried guilt like a shadow, guilt for not being present enough for his wife, guilt for surviving when she did not, guilt for building walls of wealth that kept him distant from human pain. Now that guilt had a face, a name, a story, and it sat quietly in front of him asking for nothing. Over the following days, Daniel could not shake the encounter. Board meetings felt meaningless. Profits felt hollow. He found himself thinking about the nurse, about how easily lives intersect and separate without justice or reason. He thought about how close she had been to the moment Arav entered the world, and how far she now was from any sense of security. He arranged to meet her again, this time not as a CEO, but as a man searching for understanding. He learned more about her sacrifices, her skill, her compassion. He learned she had stayed longer than required during his wife's pregnancy, refusing extra pay, simply because she cared. He learned that, on the night his wife passed, the nurse had cried alone in a hospital corridor, knowing her own life would change too. Slowly, Daniel began to change, not through dramatic gestures, but through quiet actions. He helped her find medical work again, not out of pity, but out of respect. He ensured she had a safe place to live. He invited her back into Arav's life, not as a replacement for his wife, but as a bridge to the past that had been lost too quickly. What surprised Daniel most was how healing this connection became for him as well. Watching Arav rest peacefully under the care of someone who had once protected his wife brought a sense of continuity he thought was gone forever. It felt like honoring his wife's memory not through grief but through compassion. The nurse never asked for gratitude. She never blamed him. She carried her pain quietly, with the dignity of someone who had seen both love and loss up close. In her presence, Daniel learned a truth no business book had ever taught him, that success without humanity is fragile, and wealth without kindness is empty. Months passed, and the park no longer felt like the place where fear had struck him. It became a symbol of awakening. Daniel began funding programs for displaced medical workers, people like the nurse who had fallen through the cracks. He began showing up differently, listening more, assuming less. His company noticed the change. His son felt it most. Arav grew healthier, happier, surrounded not just by resources, but by warmth. And Daniel, for the first time since his wife's death, felt something close to peace. Not because the pain had vanished, but because it had found meaning. Just before the story ends, I want to ask you something important. Please comment below where you are watching from and share one thought this story awakened in you. Your words matter more than you know. As Daniel watched his son take his first unsteady steps one evening, supported gently by the same woman life had nearly erased, he realized something profound. Fate does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly on a park bench, waiting to be seen. And sometimes, healing begins not with power, but with humility. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can rewrite even the darkest chapters, please like this video, share it, and stay connected with the channel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach those who need them most.